Followed closely by Tristram Rose, Dolcheza, and then Tristark and Late Show, followed by Lacqueries and Our Sophia. Further back in the field came Rant and Rave, and then Dwanet's Girl, Playful Princess, Bone Crusher. A mile back, Samazan, followed by Astralin and Fox Seal as last as they near the corner. Coming around the bend at the 450 mark, and Tristark had raced to the lead. Tristark leads the Tancred Stakes fields around the bend and straightened up in front of A Bit Like a, followed by the Vagrant, and then Dolcheza, Handy Proverb behind them under pressure. Further back is Our Sophia and Rant and Rave down the extreme outside at the 200 mark, and A Bit Like her again beat off Tristark. A Bit Like her got clear of Tristark. The filly Dolcheza trying hard to get to them. Rant and Rave, a look at Bone Crusher. Bone Crusher down the outside is coming home right over the top of them. Rant and Rave and Bone Crusher. Bone Crusher won the Tancred. What a performance. Bone Crusher beat Rant and Rave with A Bit Like a third. Close up Tristark, Dolcheza and Dwanet's Girl. Handy Proverb disappointing, followed by Our Sophia. Further back is Samasan, a gap then to Astralin, Playful Princess, Late Show, the Vagrant, Fox Seal, Lacqueries and Tristram Rose, last to finish in the Bowater Scott Tancred Stakes for 86. Wow, what a run, Bone Crusher. What a run. He's come with a rattling run. Over the last 100 metres, after being in front of no more than about 2 horses at the 800, he stood them up what looked to be an impossible start, and this 3-year-old by the former Australian horse Pagasa has put in a far lap run right down the middle of the track, ridden by GM Stewart, who has a rather exuberant whip action. Bone Crusher absolutely swamped Rant and Rave and A Bit Like her, and has scored one of the best wins we've seen in a long, long time. Is this the Bone Crusher we saw in Sydney as a 2-year-old, when his form was very, very disappointing? He went home to New Zealand and has made amazing improvement. One man who can't get over the improvement is jockey Ron Quinton, who rode Bone Crusher one day in a 2-year-old race at Randwick and thought he was a very ordinary horse. Boy, he's more than ordinary now. Bone Crusher, Rant and Rave, so the 3-year-olds have quinelled the Tancred Stakes. Bone Crusher beating Rant and Rave, A Bit Like a third, and the Bonnie mare Tristark has finished right behind the place getters. OK, we're going back down to the mounting enclosure now. Ray Hadley's going to talk to the trainer of Bone Crusher.
Frank Ritchie's the man in question. Congratulations to you. You said you were very surprised. You must be astounded. That was a phenomenal performance.
Look, it's unbelievable to me. The horse has only the last 24 hours really come back to me. I haven't been happy with him largely all week. And at the turn, I thought he'd dropped out purely because he'd had enough. You know, he appeared to me at that stage as if things were going wrong. Gary obviously had something else in mind, and to win like that even surpassed my opinion of him, and of course I love him.
There have been rumours all week about the horse not quite being right. They were right, were they, the rumours?
They were absolutely correct. The horse had only done moderately. You know, he'd never done badly, but only moderately, and to win these races takes a good performance. And only in the last 24 hours I was becoming more confident. But even I wouldn't have believed in my wildest dreams he could have won like that.
Well, he's won 9 from 18. He can carry that champion tag with that win today.
Well, I'm a harsh critic of champions, but even I'll say so yes now.
Congratulations to you, Frank.
Thank you very much.
John Tapp, Frank Ritchie, the trainer of Bone Crusher, one of the best Kiwis we've seen to come across the Tasman for quite a long time. I think you'd agree.
I'll say Bone Crusher on the New South Wales TAB, $1.75 and a very good place dividend of $1.25. Ian, old Bone Crusher has come with a rattling run.
Sure has, Tappy. I'm just wondering, Tappy, how painful was that for you to call Bone Crusher across the line there?
I felt it every inch of the way.
Well, we hope that leg's better soon, mate. In a moment, we'll come back with surfing.
I can still see the little fella. He always reminded me of a leprechaun.
Did he, eh? Yes, I suppose he did. He was only a little bloke, Maurice McCartan, very quietly spoken. He was one of the true gentlemen of the turf, and he passed away some years ago now after leaving his niche in no mean order on Australian horse racing, both as a trainer and a jockey, of course, before that. This race is named in his honour. He trained the first slipper winner, Todman, back in 1957. Scratchings here at Chime Square, and for an addition, it leaves a field of 12 to run. Gee, there's a promising horse in the race here, a horse by the name of Zip Home. In fact, it's hard to believe that a horse who won his maiden as recently as the 13th of February could be stacked up against such a slick field of sprinters as this. I, for one, feel he's up to the task because he's on the limit weight of only 50 kilos and he has boundless potential. What do you think, Ray?
Well, John, I was most impressed with the way the horse won at Warwick Farm, and then Canterbury subsequently. He's a very promising horse, but it is a very stiff rising class here today. He's the favourite on the tote. 9 to 2, Mr. Illusion. 2's Foystan, Wanavi 11s, So Tip 60s, Go Down to Stately Queen 14 to 1. Capilano 50s, Rassflyer 30s, Vain Carrioi 25 to 1, Elroy 30s, Vain Fury 25 to 1, Zip Home, the horse you're talking about, John, 7 to 4, but he's better than that in the ring, and the outsider is Count Bevic. Now, John, regarding those two jockeys that were involved in an altercation after the Golden Slipper, I can tell you the two jockeys that will be interviewed later today by the Chairman of Stewards, Mr. John Schreck, are Mick Dittman, who rode the winner Bounding Away, and Peter Cook, who was out of a place on Captivan. They're the two jockeys that will be interviewed by Chairman of Stewards, John Schreck. He told me that some 45 seconds ago, so there'll be a big story emanating from that meeting with the Chairman of Stewards this afternoon.
Yes, apparently Dittman came back to the jockey's room after the presentation where Peter was sweating on him. It looked like getting nasty, but one of the jockey room attendants was able to step between them before any punches were traded, and I'm pleased it didn't get to that. And John Schreck has adjourned that until after the last race and maybe on to next week. Now, they're running a little late here. This was scheduled for 5 o'clock. It's only a minute off to the original post time, but they'll probably be another 3 or 4 minutes. However, I'd love to hear Kenny Callender's views on this final race. We spoke with him a little earlier. Yes, Ken?
They say the Tommy Smith stable's tipping Zip Home an absolute moral. Every paper boy in Kensington was tipping it this morning. Even the dogs were barking as we walked out on the racecourse. I think it's pretty good, but I think they put the race on for it last start at Canterbury. If you wanted to get it home, you'd have ridden the other chances exactly the way they did. I think Zip Home's a super risk, and I don't think the other horse in the market, Foystan's, much of a horse. I'll be laying both of them for plenty, and I'll probably be crying if either of them win. Me, I think Mr. Illusion's one of the best sprinters in Australia. He's run against the top grade horses like in the Oakley Plate and the Newmarket at his last 2 runs, while Zip Home and Foystan have been running against hacks. That's if you don't include at sea. Well, I think that Mr. Illusion will sit just behind them and run home too strongly for the horses in the final event of the day. I hope so, and if he does, I'll go home with a bit of cash.
Thanks, Ken. Mr. Illusion's been a great sprinter. He's had 31 starts. He's won 11 of them and has already won prize money of about $206,000. So he's earned every ounce of his 56 kilos. Johnny Miller has the mount, the famous galloping grandfather from Perth. And in his mid-50s, John Miller is still riding as well as he ever was at any stage of his long career. Prime Minister Bob Hawke has been a most interested spectator here today at Rose Hill as guest of the Sydney Turf Club. He actually officiated at the presentation ceremony for the Tancred Stakes, and this is what he had to say.
A very exciting horse, I believe, of which we're going to hear an enormous amount more in the future. Very exciting, enormous win, and those of you who saw Kiwi's performance in coming from behind to win the Melbourne Cup must have been thinking of that performance when you saw Bone Crusher today. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I speak for all of you in saying once again, congratulations to the connections of Bone Crusher, and I'd ask you, Peter Mitchell, to come forward and receive this presentation.
Thank you very much. Beautiful time. Okay, thank you. Yes. Can I read this? Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hawke, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Tancred Stakes, no small thanks to the sponsors, Bowater Scott, has become one of the most prestigious weight for age events in Australasia. And we are privileged that Bone Crusher's name will be added to the list of top horses that have won this great race. In winning today, Bone Crusher has beaten the best 3-year-olds in Australasia and most of the best weight for age horses. And I think it's a tribute to my trainer, Frank Ritchie, that after 9 months of continuous training and racing, he seems to be better now than at any other stage of his career. Congratulations also to Gary Stewart. Gary's ridden this horse 15 times and he's won 8 and been placed 7 times. And I think that this has surely secured Gary's future as a rider. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister just mentioned to me he'd like to say just a few more words.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to say on your behalf, I know, thank you to Beau Waterscott, because these races with these prizes which attract these great horses would not be available without the sponsorship of these companies. So thank you to Beau Waterscott. I just said one thing to the connections of Bone Crusher. We don't mind them coming over here and winning these races, but I wish they'd stop thrashing us at the bloody cricket.
And you're entitled to say that too, Mr. Prime Minister. OK, Mr. Illusion is the last one to move into the starting gates, and now the course is cleared for the last event of the Golden Slipper Festival. Last race on Slipper Day. Amber lights are flashing. The good mare Stately Queen has the inside barrier. Starter ready to release the field. 1,200 metres the journey. This is where they started the big one today. Must be something causing trouble somewhere down the line. There's an attendant jumping up to go in and assist one of the riders. Racing. Stately Queen a little bit slow to move at the start. Foystan begun awkwardly, and so did Mr. Illusion. And beginning very quickly is Wanavi to be the early leader, headed by Vain Carrioy, and Vain Fury and Zip Home is up there with them. So is Raz Flyer. Stately Queen is quickly scooting along the rail into a prominent spot. They're fairly flying up front. And then Count Bevic and Foystan. Gee, they're tightly packed as they come through the gap onto the course proper. Capilano at the head of the others, and then So Tip and Elroy, and Mr. Illusion can't stay in touch. He's tailed off at the course proper gap now. 600 metres out. Vain Carrioy and Wanavi are the two leaders, and they're scorching the turf. They're a length and a half in front of Zip Home, getting the run of the race on the outside of Vain Fury. Count Bevic at the head of the others, and then Ras Flyer. Foystan behind those, followed by Stately Queen. So Tip and Mr. Illusion is 94 wide. Into the straight, 300 metres out. Vain Carrioy and Wanavi are battling it out. Zip Home under the whip, responding gamely, is going after them now. Then Vain Fury. All of the others are struggling. It's Zip Home coming at Wanavi and Vain Carrioy. Vain Carrioy, Wanavi, Zip Home can't quite get to them. Wanavi put his head in front of Vain Carrioy. Elroy is jumping out of the ground, but Wanavi beat Elroy. Third, possibly Zip Home, a breath in front of the fast finishing So Tip, and close up Vain Carrioy. Then Mr. Illusion, a lot better run than it looked. Vain Fury behind those from Foystan, Ras Flyer, and then Count Bevic and Stately Queen, and back at the tail of the field is Capilano. Stand by for numbers on the last, the Morris McCartan Stakes. It'll be number 3, Wanavi, ridden by Kevin Langby. A very courageous effort, because he had to fight hard for the lead all the way with Vain Carrioy. They went hammer and tongs in front. In fact, I thought Zip Home had to beat them the way the race was run, but he just couldn't go on in the last bit, and eventually it was the old gay deceiver Elroy who many, many times has run races like this. He flashes home at the end of his races. You think to yourself, boy, what a run, but try relying on him to do it next time and you'll finish with patches in your tie. Again, Wanavi and Vain Carrioy head and head halfway down the straight. Zip Home's a length away, desperately ridden, can't get to them. Elroy over on the rail. Jim Cassidy's mount weakening quickly now. Vain Fury. So Tip is the grey on the outside, coming home well in the last bit. But Wanavi, punched out by Langby, is too good and scores a good win. The numbers are up now. Wanavi, Elroy and Zip Home third. So it's 3, 11 and 13 on the last of the day. Well, we've had a wonderful day's racing here at Rose Hill for Tui's Golden Slipper 1986. It's been a great pleasure bringing you the action in most of the races, and we sincerely hope you're back to a few winners and, of course, all racing action brought to you with the compliments of Tui's. And Mike, my boy, get one ready for me, son. I'm on my way.
OK, Tappy, I'll rip one off. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment to take a look at the...
A big day.